Hi guys, it's Lucy and today I'm going to be doing my October wrap-up. This month's wrap-up is not going to be combined with my TBR because I feel like I read a good amount of books where it's going to take me a while to talk about them. My November TBR should be up hopefully this weekend because my first order of business is to tell you guys that I'm planning on having a new upload schedule. I have been doing this YouTube booktube thing for about a year and a half now, and I haven't had a schedule. After last month, I ended up going 2 weeks without posting, and that was very weird for me because I'm pretty good at being regular, posting at least one video a week. So I decided that maybe to make it easier on myself, because I am pretty busy this semester, I would try and make a schedule that I can abide by. And so I've been trying it out this month to see if I could handle this schedule, and I think I can. So my new upload schedule will be, I will upload at least once a week on Saturdays, and if I do end up uploading twice a week, then I will upload on the Wednesday. The month of October was a pretty good month for me, other than school, which was, horrible as always. Just kidding, stay in school, kids. I feel like I say that every time I talk about how bad school is. I had a bunch of tests. No, I had one test, but it was a very stressful test because in this class we only get one test and then the final, so it was very stressful. But it's over now. Also, for Halloween, I was Alvin from Alvin and the Chipmunks, which hopefully I will insert right here. So that's it for my little life update, I guess. I ended up reading 6 books in the month of October, which was pretty good in my opinion. That's more than I read in September and August, combined actually. I also took part in one readathon this month. It was Dewey's 24-hour readathon. It was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun this time as I did last time. I ended up reading more books than I read last time, so I was pretty happy with it, and I'm going to go over the books that I read during that in this video as well. So let's just get right into the books that I read this month. The first book that I read was Parallel by Lauren Miller. This is about a girl named Abby Barnes who had her whole life planned out. She was going to graduate high school and then go to Northwestern for journalism, and then one little choice ended up with her being in Hollywood starring in a movie. And she's not really all that happy with that choice. And then the night of her 18th birthday, she's still in Hollywood on the movie set. She goes to bed, and then she wakes up, and she's all of a sudden in a dorm room at Yale, and she has no recollection of how she got there. With the help of her super smart friend, she learns that somehow there was some kind of cosmic collision which caused her to start living the life of a parallel version of herself, and in this version of her life, she did end up going to Yale. So this book is about her dealing with kind of that, waking up, not knowing how she got there, and trying to figure out this parallel universe. And there's also some romance in here, because what is a contemporary novel without romance? And yeah, I gave this book 3.5 stars. I found it to be pretty fun and enjoyable. There is a love triangle, so if that bothers you, then maybe don't read it. But this love triangle didn't bother me because it was done a little differently from what I've seen. My biggest issue was kind of just the parallel universe theory that was involved in this. I found that there were too many kind of holes in the theory for me. I find that a lot when there are books or movies about parallel universes or time travel. There's always something that doesn't add up, and that always bothers me, but it might not bother you. So that was a big issue for me because it felt like it caused some plot holes, but I was able to move past it and keep reading because it is a really fun book to read. And my other issue was that Abby is basically so perfect, it got kind of annoying. Come on, she was going to be a movie star in one life, and then the next life she's a freshman at Yale. Her life is perfect in both universes. I did like that this had more than meets the eye, because there was some conversation about destiny and fate and things like that. I didn't necessarily agree with what the book was saying, but I enjoyed that it was there. This Savage Song by Victoria Schwab. This is the first book in the Monsters of Verity duology. In this book, we follow Kate Harker and August Flynn, who are on opposite sides of a divided city. At some point before the events of this novel, something called the Phenomenon occurred, and the phenomenon resulted in monsters being created from acts of violence. And so the city ended up being split up into 2 sides. The north side is run by Kate Harker's dad, and then the south side is run by August's father. And this book follows both of them as they're living their lives and their stories intertwine. And I really, really enjoyed it. I gave this book 4 stars. I found that the dual perspective was interesting. I didn't find it hard at all to tell whose perspective I was reading from. I really liked the idea of the monsters and how they came to be, that they come from acts of violence. And there was also like discussion of humanity, because August is a monster. He's the most powerful type of monster. He wants to be human is a large part of the story, and I thought that whole conversation was very interesting. But other than that, the world building was a little lacking because we only saw this one city. I think in the next one we're probably going to get to see more of the country, which leads me to another kind of sore point. I thought that the classification of this book as fantasy was a little weird to me because it reads more like a dystopian in my opinion, especially because it's set in one city, and like where the city is part of what used to be former United States, which again seems like more of a dystopian type of thing, but that's just me. It didn't really affect my like overall enjoyment of the novel, but I just thought that was an interesting thing. So yeah, I really enjoyed this. I'm really glad that this is a duology because then I'll get to finish it next year and see how everything ends. A Game of Thrones by George R.R. Martin. I finally finished it. Yes, it has been done. I read all 835 pages of this massive book. It took me 4 months, but I read it. If you don't already know, A Game of Thrones is the first book in a fantasy series called A Song of Ice and Fire, and the series follows a group of people. I think it might be a different group of people in each book actually, but it follows a group of people who are kind of like the high society of this fantasy land, and it kind of follows them and the transfer of power and things like that, and magic and fantasy stuff. So overall, I gave this book 3.5 stars. It was intriguing and I did enjoy reading it, but there were many times where I found it pretty slow and kind of boring to read, and I ended up only actually enjoying 3 characters' perspectives. And it's not like I even loved their characters or anything. There were a couple that I was interested in, but I didn't like them as a person, which was nice, but there are some of them where I didn't like them as a person. I didn't really care what happened to them at all. A Game of Thrones is known for the fact that no one is safe. Like, any character can die at any time. It doesn't matter if they're a main character. And the fact that it's willing to go there in terms of like risque things like incest and basically child rape. I knew that going in, but a lot of the time it didn't really feel like it was there for a purpose. It felt like it was there for a shock value rather than to help tell the story. If you care, my favorite characters were Jon Snow, Arya Stark, and Daenerys, although towards the end, Daenerys, I was kind of like, what is going on with you, girl? So I'm kind of mixed towards her. I really hated Sansa. A lot of people say her character has a lot of growth throughout the series. I don't know if that's just the TV show or the book, I'm not sure. But yeah, I don't really care about her, so I don't get it. Overall, even though I gave it 3.5 stars, because most of the book I did enjoy, I would say like 60 to like 65% of the book I enjoyed. 35 to 40% I did not enjoy as much. Not sure if I will ever read the next books in the series. I will probably never watch the TV show because the book was too graphic for me, so I don't think I could ever watch that because I'm a big scared cat, and usually in books I'm fine, and I was fine, but I think if I saw it in a TV show I don't think I'd be fine. Now I can say I've read A Game of Thrones. Next, we have the books that I read for the 24-hour readathon. I actually finished A Game of Thrones during the 24-hour readathon. I read like the last 50 pages, so I counted it. So technically, I read 3 books during the readathon. So I said I read 3 books during the readathon, but really I only read 2 and 50 pages of another one. And I started another one, which I did end up finishing this month, so I'll get to that at the end. But the first book that I started and finished during the 24-hour readathon was Milk and Honey by Rupi Kaur. This is a collection of poetry which is separated into 4 sections. The overall story of the collection is about love and relationships. I gave this 4.5 stars. I ended up really liking it. I had a lot of feels reading this book, which is saying something because I thought it would be a little overhyped for me because this is basically in every other picture on Tumblr and like everyone says they love it. So I went in a little wary, but I really did enjoy it. It really lived up to the hype in my opinion. I wouldn't say that I related to most of the poems because I haven't gone through most of the things she writes about in this, but I do see how other people would relate to it, and I thought that the poems are beautiful anyway. It also has like artwork in it, which was really interesting, nice. It has like just like little line drawings, which I thought really added to the poetry and what she was trying to convey. I did have one issue, which is why I didn't give it a full 5 stars. I felt like the first section did not really fit in with the rest of the sections. The last 3 sections had like a very cohesive kind of storyline, if that makes sense. but the first section didn't really fit in with that storyline, in my opinion. So since this is a collection, you would expect everything to like go with each other, but I felt like the first section didn't really do that. It was still like good on its own, but I didn't think it had a place in this specific collection. But I did really enjoy this, and the other 3 sections more than made up for what I felt about the first. 20 Boy Summer by Sarah Ockler. This is about a girl named Anna who goes on vacation with her best friend's family. Her best friend decides that they should play a game where they try and meet one boy every day of that vacation in order to try and have the perfect summer fling. What Anna's best friend doesn't know is that Anna is still hung up on her best friend's brother, who she had a secret relationship with the year before, and he ended up dying right after they started, basically. Anna is still very much grieving over like her lost relationship because they never got a chance to tell anybody. So Anna wasn't sure if that she should tell her best friend, and so she never did after he died. So the book is about Anna coming to terms with that and her grief. I gave this book 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. I actually hadn't read the synopsis before I read the book, so I hadn't realized that someone dies in the beginning of the novel. So I didn't expect this book to be about grief. I expected it to be a little bit lighter than what it was because I thought it was just going to be about some girls like trying to have a summer fling. But it was about that, but it was also dealing with the grief of losing your boyfriend or hookup or whatever, and like losing your brother, losing your son, and like how a family deals with that. And I thought it was very well done. I really enjoyed reading about it. It was still light-hearted-ish enough for me. So this book is not really what you expect. If you want like a super light fluffy read, this is probably not it. But if you want something with a little more of a darker tone, then I would recommend it. The last book I'm going to talk about in this video, I started during the 24-hour readathon and actually just finished last night being the 30th of October. And that book is This Is Where It Ends by Marieke Nijkamp. This book follows 4 students who are caught during a school shooting, and it's told during that 45 minutes of the school shooting, and it's about them all thinking like, what's going on, like why would this person do this, and their relationships with that person and all that stuff. I ended up giving this book 3.5 stars. I thought it was very important and it was very heartbreaking. I don't want to say that I enjoyed reading this because it was so depressing and just sad. I don't know another word to describe that. I did like that I read it. I'm glad that I read it. I thought that the characters were okay. They weren't the best characters. I didn't feel that much of a connection to most of them, but I did feel for all of them during what happened, so I think it was well done in that aspect. My biggest issues were with the writing and then like one aspect of the novel. My issue with the writing was that I found that the writing was a little bit awkward. Sometimes it didn't always feel like a teenager would be thinking or saying that. And then my issue with the one aspect of the novel, at the end of, I think each chapter, maybe it's every other chapter, I'm not really sure right now, the author would include like tweets or like social media posts that are happening like outside of the event, like someone who didn't go to school that day and they're finding out what's going on, they tweet about it or something like that. I didn't really like that part. I found that it really brought me out of the story. Like I know it was at the end of the chapter, so I guess it was supposed to be like a little break, but I really didn't like that. I found them to be annoying. I get that the author was trying to show how it affects so many people and how it affects so many people differently, especially in this day and age with social media, like that would be likely to happen, but I didn't like it included in the book because again, I found it annoying. A lot of them, like they were tweets, like they weren't even like full 160 character tweets, they were like 20 or 40 character tweets, like they didn't really add anything and they brought me out of the story. And not all of the tweets were like by people you didn't care about, like they weren't any of the main 4 perspectives. I did give this book 3.5 stars. I do think it's important to read because unfortunately this is a thing that happens. Okay, so those are all the books that I read in October. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up. If you have any opinions about any of the books I read, please leave a comment down below. And again, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in my next video. Bye. Alvin from Alvin of the Chipmunks, couple months. Oh my god, it's only November. And the Famama, a lot of people say her character has immense